Hello, everyone, and welcome into Sports Talk Chicago right here on WLS AM 890. I am Joey Christopoulos. Happy Saturday. Thank you so much for coming into the show. Here on Sports Talk Chicago today, we are going to talk about the Chicago Bears at 1-0, about to take on the Houston Texans on Sunday Night Football in Week 2. Hope you're having a wonderful weekend. Thank you so much for checking us out. If you're listening to us on the radio right now, you can also watch our feed on YouTube. Just type in Sports Talk Chicago, pop it up, subscribe, like, comment, and subscribe below. So excited to be here. We've done about a month of shows here on WLS AM 890. So happy to be a part of that community, part of this station. And finally, at long last, I have actual football to talk about. We've been projecting for a long time. We've been hypothesizing for a long time. And now we can actually talk about some real football. And unfortunately, and fortunately, on the unfortunate side, the Chicago Bears had a couple of weaknesses and a couple of things pop up in Week 1 that made the performance a little bit more uneven, even though they picked up a victory that I've been talking about on this show for quite some time now. But again, fortunately, the Chicago Bears won. So let's dive right into what my perspective is from that Week 1 win, 24-17 over the Tennessee Titans. They were down 17-3 at one point. They had a Velus Jones fumble on the kickoff. That did not help. They had offensive line issues. But again, like we've seen with many Bears teams for many, many, many years now, down 17-3, they get a strip sack fumble. They get a pick six interception. They get a little help on special teams. Next thing you know, they're back in it. Caleb makes just a couple of enough throws, one especially to get that 2-point conversion, which was crucial. And the Chicago Bears are 1-0. Winning ugly here in Chicago, we are used to it. Now, all offseason, we've been praying and hoping with our fingers crossed that Caleb Williams is going to pull us up from what we've had to deal with our entire lives and take us to a different place of football. But obviously, in his first start, his NFL debut, as a rookie, he can say what he wants. He said it on Hard Knocks, quote, "I never get nervous before a game." Well, something happened that took him a little bit out of, I think, the mindset that he walks into of, any old ordinary game. This was no ordinary game for Caleb Williams. This was his first start in the NFL, his dream come true, the number one pick for what Chicago Bears are hoping to be many, many games in the future. You have to help but think you got to call it something, right? Some people might call it nerves. Some people might call it jitters. I personally think he was overexcited. Have you ever had that the first day of school? You're maybe a little too overexcited. You go to a party, you try and meet some friends. Maybe you're a little too overexcited, a little too amped up. Pull it back a little bit. That's what I saw from Caleb Williams. It reminded me a lot, this is a baseball analogy, but I love baseball, of that highly touted rookie prospect, that pitcher that comes in and throws some heat, throws some real gas, gets on the mound, first start ever in the major leagues, and can't find the strike zone. I believe Kerry Wood in his first start, he walked 4 or 5 guys, something along those lines. And look, sometimes if you're overexcited, you are going to make some mistakes. And that's what I saw from Caleb Williams. And I'm not running away from it here. And Bears fans, you shouldn't either. Many things can be true in this life. There aren't necessarily absolute truths, especially at the Bears quarterback position right now in Week 1 of the NFL season. Let's start with the first truth. And this one is factual. We have to be transparent. We have to be honest with ourselves about it. Caleb was bad in that game. Caleb did not play well. Caleb looked like a rookie. Caleb had poor footwork, which he's now admitted to during this week, about how his drops were actually too quick, where he was ahead of the timing of the play. He has now admitted that. I thought Caleb, in a couple of situations, when the interior offensive line kind of caved in on him, he tried to make a play by going backwards instead of bailing out of the pocket to the left or to the right. And there are going to be moments where I think his athleticism is going to be a factor and is going to be a plus for the Chicago Bears and for Caleb. But in this particular game, he just simply couldn't get away. that 19-yard sack is not good. And then the one that was the obvious one for me that I think is the most correctable, and I think the one that we're going to see corrected the quickest, was just the accuracy. Accuracy was not there. He seemed to be trying to throw 100 miles an hour with every single ball that he threw. And it wasn't just the Keenan Allen down the sidelines. It was the easy stuff in the middle. I saw him missing to the left when a receiver was going to the right. I saw a couple that were basically at knee-high level instead of at the numbers. And the one thing that we can't dispute coming out of college is that almost every single scout agreed that Caleb Williams is accurate. We just did not see it in this instance in this game. It's fair to say that Caleb Williams was not good in this game while also being excited for his future. That is the land of many truths. And look, if you want to fan how you want to fan, I'm not going to get in your way. If you want to bail on a rookie quarterback after one game, after this entire offseason, and you want to put a stamp on it that Caleb was going to be a bust, knock yourself out, I'm just not going to be that person at this time. I'm going to be honest with the audience here at WLS and say that Caleb was bad, and I hope that it's going to get better in the near future. And to be honest with you, I'm not sure we're going to see it in week 2, which comes back to a point that I've been trying to make all offseason, and I've said it here on WLS, and I've said it on Sports Talk Chicago at the moment Caleb was drafted, is that with rookie quarterbacks, the learning curve is different. And in the NFL even, it is difficult to hit the ground running. If you're a wide receiver or a tight end, it is difficult to hit the ground running. If you were an offensive tackle, you might get your head kicked in a couple of weeks into your NFL career, learn some tough lessons, and then get it going. Some guys don't even start right away. At the quarterback position, we all know that has changed because we need results right now. Part of that has to do with the rookie contract. Part of that has to do with the investment that general managers and front offices have put into these picks when they make these quarterbacks. And another portion of it is us, the fan, that needs it now, wanted it yesterday. Why isn't it here? And if it's not here right now, get somebody else in here who can get it for me. It's the nature of sports that we live in. I don't particularly lean that way, but I understand and recognize that it exists. And I have been saying for months now that we need to temper expectations when it comes to Caleb Williams. When I say temper expectations, I was never at any point expecting him to come out and throw for 300 or 400 yards. I certainly hope you weren't either. I think he will get there at some point, and I think it will be this season. Is it going to be week 2? I don't think so still. I think we have to let the kid grow and have some bumps in the road along the way. And when we say temper expectations, what are my expectations? Well, mine are as follows. You do want to see him make progress every single week and get more comfortable. As I've said on the show, I love the plays outside of the pocket, but I want to see Caleb Williams win inside the pocket. Bears fans, that's ultimately what we want. The highlight reels are cool. They're great for the national press. But here in Chicago, where it matters, we want to see Caleb Williams win from the pocket. We want to see him be accurate, and then eventually we want to see him be the reason that the Chicago Bears win football games and not just a part of the ensemble that participated in the Chicago Bears win. Week 1, Caleb Williams was a participant in the Chicago Bears win, and that's okay. He is a rookie. It is going to happen. There are going to be weeks, I'm telling you, there are going to be weeks when Caleb Williams wins the Chicago Bears football games. I am also telling you right now, mark it down, that there are going to be weeks when Caleb Williams loses us football games as well. It's the nature of the beast. He's never been through a lot of fourth quarters before. He will make a mistake. He will throw a bone back-breaking type interception at some point. It's just going to happen. It's the nature. And there are going to be moments, a lot like week 1, where maybe he doesn't play particularly well. Hopefully he plays a little bit better than week 1, because this was bad, folks. And hopefully he plays a little bit better, but there are going to be other facets and other elements of this football team that are going to help the Chicago Bears win. Could be the running game. In this particular case, in week 1, it was that defense. It was guys like Darrell Taylor, guys like Tyreek Stevenson making plays, guy like Jalen Johnson, a dude who just signed a maximum contract and is going out there like he is playing for his job. That is the type of player that Chicago Bears fans want to root for. And those are the types of players right now that are picking up Caleb Williams. It is okay to say that Caleb played bad in week 1 while also focusing on what we hope is a very bright future. But when is it going to happen, Joey? I'm sure you're asking. Look, crystal ball, magic 8 ball, whatever. I'm going to do the best that I possibly can on this. But I will say, in my opinion, I think this is going to take about a month. And when I say a month, week 1, this week 2 coming up tomorrow night against the Houston Texans on Sunday Night Football, national media, national showcase. The Houston Texans not only went to the playoffs last year, they won a playoff game. This is a real deal opponent. Even if Caleb came out gangbusters in week 1, threw 4 interceptions against Tennessee, he would still have to bring one of his better games to beat Houston on Sunday night. We're going to get to those keys to victory in the second half of this show. But then after that, they play the Indianapolis Colts in Indianapolis. Not easy. I get it. Indoors. Maybe they get a little bit more of an advantage there with some of the speed that they can use with the receivers like Tyler Scott, guys like DJ Moore. And then they come home and they play the Los Angeles Rams. Another team that, look, I'm not sure where that team exactly is going to be, but they took the Lions to overtime, went toe-to-toe with them. And if Matt Stafford is healthy, that is a real deal offense that we're going to have to compete with and score points in tandem. So this is going to be a little bit. It's not going to be a perfect stepping stone ascension for Caleb Williams. In those next 3 games, there's a great opportunity for him to play well. And I'll get into some of the reasons why, or some of the keys that I think that they need to do to hopefully get Caleb on the right track when we break down Bears versus Texans. But I'm just trying to implore people that this isn't exactly going to be like flipping on a light switch. And I know what you might also be saying. Caleb Williams is the number 1 pick. A lot of people have used the word generational talent. A lot of people, not me, have used the word Patrick Mahomes when they want to do comparisons with Caleb Williams. Don't even start. Caleb Williams was great right off the bat, Joey. He sat for a year. Sat for an entire year. I don't care. It's just different. When you're in an NFL system, you get an opportunity to learn a lot. And I'm sorry, I never said on this show that just because the preseason went well, that the Chicago Bears are going to roll this over and immediately start dominating teams. I said last week on this show the Chicago Bears would win 24-17. Did I see it exactly going the route that I thought it would? No, I didn't. I got the score right. But I didn't see a crazy offensive explosion from the Chicago Bears right off the jump. Preseason means nothing. It can play a factor in the intangible quality of confidence and momentum. It can give you an idea of what your depth is and areas that you need to improve on your football team. It's always good to get practice, to get reps, to see things, to try and slowly, incrementally slow the game down for Caleb Williams at the NFL level. But it pales in comparison to what week 1 true NFL football looks like at the main level. So this is going to take a little bit. And that's not an excuse. It's more of a realistic expectation of what we're probably going to be looking at for the next 2 or 3 weeks. Man, I would love it if he comes out and throws 12 touchdowns over the next month and shuts me up on this. I even said last week that there was an opportunity where only if the Chicago Bears, let's say they beat the Titans 35-10, I might be doing a different show today. I might be doing more of a look out, this team is coming. But they're not there yet. Can they get there by season's end? Of course. We know this is a long road. And look, we know Bears fans all about week 1. and the fork in the road that can take us sometimes. I believe 4 out of the last 5 years, our Chicago Bears teams have looked like absolute garbage on week 1. Go back to 2019. Nagy's offense 2.0, ready to rock and roll, taking on the Green Bay Packers, finally going to shove it down their throat. We lost 10-3. Roll it forward. We did have a big victory against the Detroit Lions week 1 when DeAndre Swift dropped a pass. Anthony Miller caught a pass. We came back. We won all hunky-dory. But then after that, what happened the year after? Opening against Los Angeles Rams. Andy Dalton out there. Check down city. Justin Fields gets a touchdown, but we can't score points. Year after that, okay, here we go. We're ready to rock. Playing Green Bay again. This is Justin's year. Make it or break it. And it didn't look good. We lost. But here's the good news, Bears fans. And this year, we looked like garbage, and we won a football game. Doesn't seem like much now, but you never know how this victory might tip the scales a little bit later if this team does want to be a playoff contender. And maybe that's my final part about the Caleb Williams experience here. Of these are not meant to be excuses. These are meant to be, man, this could have been way worse. And good for Caleb based on historical precedence for doing one thing that I really like to see. He did not turn the ball over. 0 turnovers. Tennessee Titans turned the ball over. Their quarterback in year 2 didn't seem to have a problem turning the ball over. But Caleb Williams didn't turn the ball over. 0 turnovers. He was pretty awful at everything else, to be very fair. But at the same time, if you're going to be awful, you might as well just protect the football and give us a chance to win. And you know what? We hung around long enough. The defense came, brought us back from nothing, and got us a victory. Heard that before? We have, Chicago Bears fans. We're 1-0. But when I talk about protecting the football and we talk about rookie quarterbacks, there's a couple things to keep in mind. First of all, the number 1 pick in the NFL draft had not won his first start in the NFL in 21 years. We have to go all the way back to David Carr, Derek Carr's older brother, for the last number 1 pick at quarterback in the NFL draft to win his first start. Nobody had done it since. Maybe because it's a hard thing to do. Caleb sure tried to join the club, but the Bears defense said no. I'm just going to pull up a couple of other examples here of other quarterbacks. A lot of these guys, definitely Pro Bowlers, definitely top players in the league. Some of them, even if you disagree with their talent, is making a ton of money right now. Some of them have been to Super Bowl. Some of these guys might actually go and play in the Hall of Fame. And I went in and I just pulled up some of their stats from their very first game as a rookie. Some of these guys are first-round number 1 picks. Some of these guys aren't. But the important thing is to just try and understand what exactly happened in that game and look and see where they are now. So the first one is Andrew Luck, because that's the easy one. Everyone always does that. True generational quarterback. Great player. And the reason why I bring it up first, too, as well, is that he did just so happen to play the Chicago Bears in his first NFL start. And let me tell you, it did not go very well for him. Andrew Luck completed only 51% of his passes, had 3 interceptions, 3 turnovers, lost by 20 points to the Chicago Bears, 41-21. Next up on the list, Trevor Lawrence. Hasn't really done much in the league. Jacksonville seems to think so. They've given him $55 million, but again, another guy, number 1 pick in the draft. He's thrown for 4,000 yards twice. A lot of people put the generational tag on him. What did he do in his first NFL start? 3 interceptions. The Jaguars lost by 16. Coming up next, Matt Stafford. First start ever. Again, on a very, very bad Detroit Lions team for many years. But now the dude's got a Super Bowl ring. Fringe Hall of Famer, but he is going to probably finish in the top 8, maybe even top 5 in all-time passing yards if he can stay healthy the next couple of years. In his first start as an NFL quarterback, week 1, 43% completion percentage, 3 interceptions, lost by 18 points. Josh Allen. Josh Allen, top quarterbacks in the league. 54 completion percentage, 2 interceptions, lost by 11 in his first NFL start. Are we getting a theme here? Next one, Joe Burrow, threw an interception, had a turnover. Bengals lost by 3. Did not throw for a lot of passing yards. Big Ben Roethlisberger lost by 17 in his first start as an NFL quarterback. 2 interceptions. And then, of course, the coup de grace. The guy that Caleb Williams is going up against Sunday night. For a lot of people, the second coming of the next great quarterback. A dude that broke every single passing record pretty much out there for rookie NFL quarterback. C.J. Stroud in his first game, week 1. 0 touchdowns, 0 picks, still lost by 16. So what I'm getting at here is a couple things. One, kudos to Caleb Williams for not turning the ball over. Dang, it got close with that pinball that ricocheted up in the air. Rome caught it. He then fumbled. Tevin Jenkins, heads-up play, recovered it. Got close there, but it didn't happen. The main point there is that the Chicago Bears were cruising for a loss in week 1. Just like all these other quarterbacks. Chicago Bears defense may or may not be a special unit. Brought the team back. Caleb did not play well. Was inaccurate, but protected the football enough to give his defense a chance to come back and pick up a victory. Small silver linings. Caleb played bad. It's true. But he didn't turn the ball over, and he also won his first NFL start, something that hadn't happened in over 21 years in the NFL. A lot was going on there. Right guard getting benched. Keenan Allen, is he healthy? Is he not? Cole Kmet not on the field. We're going to get to all this stuff after the break here in just a moment when I preview Chicago Bears versus Houston Texans. But Caleb Williams got through it. Played terrible. To his credit, owned up to it. Said he did not play well. Said he will perform better. I think everyone in Chicago sure hopes so. And the Chicago Bears get a win. And that's what's important. Because now they got a tough matchup coming up here on Sunday night against the Houston Texans. A team that went to a playoff game, won a playoff game, and also has C.J. Stroud, a young, ascending, rising star in the NFL at the quarterback position. It's going to be a tough test. But again, this is all part of the journey. And I'm excited to watch. And as a Bears fan, I hope that you're excited to watch too as well. Because it may not be pretty. And it may not exactly happen the very, very moment that you want to. Sorry, Bears fans. But me personally, I still think it's coming. But again, we have to temper expectations and realize maybe a little inconsistent. May not arrive exactly when you want to. And hopefully, the Chicago Bears defense can carry this offense for a little while until they can kind of get clicking. Give them about a month. If things are still looking bad after a month, you will hear criticism from me. And you will hear criticism in every single game that Caleb does not play well, because that's what we need to do. Chicago Bears deserve it. We should hold ourselves to a higher standard. What I'm not going to do, though, is watch him play one bad game or 4 bad quarters or even 2 bad weeks in a row and chalk it up to this dude's a bust. Because sometimes these things take time, and sometimes Caleb Williams, just like that pitcher, that highly touted pitcher, that highly touted prospect, simply just needs to find the strike zone a little bit. And hopefully that's what this week of practice is all about. We're coming back here on Sports Talk Chicago with Joey Christopoulos right here on WLS AM 890. Hope you're having a wonderful Saturday. Hope you're having a great weekend. The weather is amazing, guys. Let's soak it up while we can, because there's nothing better than great weather. Football's in the air. It's a perfect time of year. I know maybe some of you are trying to think about getting your pumpkin spice, get your apple cinnamon on, go for it, do what you want to do. But me, I'm trying to wear shorts for as long as I possibly can. You can follow me at Joey Sports Guy on socials if you want to. Thank you so much for tuning in here. We are here every single Saturday. We're talking Chicago Bears football because guess what? That is what's about to dominate this town this week and in the months to come. Just got back talking about Caleb Williams' first game. Did not think that he played well. But there were some factors involved there that hopefully we see a little bit of a different type of play from him heading into Sunday. So let's talk about this matchup with the Chicago Bears versus the Houston Texans. As I mentioned in the first break, the Houston Texans are a real deal team, ladies and gentlemen. The great litmus test. The Chicago Bears lose. Does that mean that they can't figure it out, can't be a playoff team? No, of course not. But the Houston Texans didn't exactly play their best football, and they won 29-27 last week against the Indianapolis Colts, one of their division rivals. They went to the playoffs last year. They won a playoff game. C.J. Stroud broke every single rookie record, especially the passing yards record that you can imagine. Not the touchdowns part, which was an interesting little blowback, but the dude was throwing for a lot of yards. No joke. Will Caleb Williams break that record this year? I have my doubts. But let's get into some of the keys here of what it's going to take, because I'm going to be honest with you right now. This matchup scares me a little bit. I don't want to reveal my pick, but I am a little worried about the Chicago Bears playing this game for multiple reasons. The first one is the obvious one. When you go through the schedule release in the offseason, you sit down and you try and give yourself, to the best of your ability, wins and losses, right? So like everybody else, like every other Bears fan, I start and I go 17-0. Every single game they lose. Every single game they win by 55 points. So you start there, and then you try and just bring yourself back down to earth a little bit with something called gravity, and you start going through. And I will tell you that every time I looked through this schedule, I had this game as a loss on the scorecard for the Chicago Bears. I had the Tennessee Titans as a win for the Chicago Bears. The manner in which they won the game last week was a little bit different. But again, I do have the Chicago Bears losing to the Houston Texans on Sunday Night Football. I just think that there's a lot of factors that are going to make this kind of tough on this team that's trying to grow, gel, and come together right now. The obvious ones is it's going to be Caleb's first road game, national TV, and dealing with that road crowd and trying to run a smooth, efficient operation. You saw at times last week when Caleb wanted to play hurry-up football. He'd make a completion, and he'd look to Shane Waldron and said, give it to me. Give it to me again. I want to run it again. And they were having a problem getting in and out of that. I don't know whose fault that is. That could be a communication issue. That could be Shane Waldron. But Caleb Williams wanted to try and run a little up-tempo. Chicago Bears had a hard time doing that. So while the operation, for the most part, looked okay, not too many pre-snap penalties. There was some holding stuff that happened. I think it's going to be even more of a challenge in Houston on Sunday Night Football, with a franchise and probably a fan base that's reinvigorated and super excited. I think that's going to be tough. The other thing that's going to be tough is, as we're taping this right now, I'm taping this on a Friday morning, we are not 100% sure who the offensive line is going to be for the Chicago Bears. And I tell you, it's one of the few things that if you can help it, you really want to get figured out as quick as you possibly can. And the hope is that this would have gotten figured out in training camp. Unfortunately, it was not. Again, Nate Davis struggling to stay in the practice field, missing time, missing reps, missing opportunities to find a cohesive unit with his other offensive line members. Gets healthy, gets out in the game, and for long stretches looks terrible, looks lost, and sometimes post-snap doesn't even put a hand on a guy because he thinks he's going one way and he completely misses the other dude coming from the other side. Nate Davis was benched after 18 plays in week 1. I got to tell you, for those casual sports fans that are listening right now, that is hard to do. In week 1, these are typically the guys that the coaching staff has decided upon that they're going to go out there and they give us the best chance to win. And even when they struggle, they continuously give them more reps and opportunities to work themselves out of it, because this is the unit that we want to move forward with. After 18 snaps, the Chicago Bears said, nope, no thanks. Ryan Bates, come on in. And again, if you're Caleb Williams and you're a rookie, this is not the reason why you're inaccurate. This is not the reason why you lost your footwork. Not really the reason why you didn't play well. Of course, the offensive line is always a factor. But I will tell you this much. When Nate Davis, your starting right guard, gets benched after 18 snaps, it is a distraction. There had to have been a moment when Caleb looked and said, oh, well, I guess he's not on the field anymore. Of course you keep rolling. Of course you keep playing. That's the nature of the game. But you can't tell me that for 2 seconds it was like, okay, well, this is different. They have to figure out who's playing right guard. I'm not saying the offensive line is the problem, but I thought the offensive line had problems in week 1. And when you're trying to find what is the strength of this team right now, that offensive line needs to help provide some answers. Are we going to be able to run the ball? Are we going to be able to road grade? Or is it going to be Coleman Shelton getting road graded? Getting literally put on his butt, somersaulted over as a Tennessee Titan is up on Caleb Williams less than 2 seconds after the snap? Are they going to be able to protect in passing situations? Are they going to be able to run deeper routes to give Caleb the opportunity to stretch the ball downfield? I actually like, from what I saw in the preseason, some of the early indicators that I think Caleb Williams does a better job of stepping up in the pocket and extending a play than anything that we ever saw from Mitch Trubisky or Justin Fields already. And we saw a couple of those moments in the game. But again, if Braxton Jones and Darnell Wright are pushing their guys out to the side, these interior offensive linemen cannot have defenders in Caleb's face right off the bat, because guess what? You're not stepping into anything. You're stepping into a sack. Or in Caleb's case, you're running 19 yards backwards and you're picking up a sack. So one of my big first keys here is going to be, I want to see more from that offensive line. And if it's Ryan Bates, let's go for it. I hope he plays the whole game. I hope he plays well. If Nate Davis gives another shot, that's awesome. If it doesn't work out with Nate Davis, we're going to have a serious conversation about whether this dude has a future on this football team, a football team that is trying to win right now. That's going to be one of my big keys, because in the previous segment, I said that this is going to take probably a month for Caleb Williams and this offense to get going. So my big key also, for just not only offensive line, they go in together, their tandem, is the running back position. We need to get that running game going. It's old, it's boring, it's even cliche, but the easiest way to get the pressure off of a rookie quarterback, especially one that maybe was dealing with a little inaccuracy, maybe with an overexcited nature, how do you calm him down? Pick up some first downs, moving the chains, running the football. Conversely, the Houston Texans, they got some weapons on that team. I mean, it's not just Nico Collins and Tank Dell and Dalton Schultz from last year. They added Stephon Diggs, who scored a touchdown last week, and they added Joe Mixon in the backfield, who popped over 150 yards on the ground last year. That team can score. So the Chicago Bears, to get control of this game, it's going to happen from the offensive line perspective. Run the football. Try and control the clock. Create play-action scenarios for Caleb that when he turns around, he's got a clean pocket to set his feet and hopefully deliver an accurate throw. I think those are going to be the keys to some of this success. I don't think the Chicago Bears offense is ready to go toe-to-toe in the 29-27, 34-31 type game just yet. The Texans can do that. I don't think the Chicago Bears offense is ready for that. Another reason why this matchup worries me. So how do you do that? I think you got to shorten the game a little bit. Pick up those first downs. And DeAndre Swift looked great on the outside zone runs, but every single time they tried to run it on the interior, he was either getting stuffed or the offensive line was blowing it up. Again, unsexy, but between the tackles, these Chicago Bears, they need to set a tone and try and build some momentum, which gets to my next point here, my next key to a Bears win versus the Houston Texans. The offensive coordinator. I'm not saying he had a bad game. I think he did fine. But when you start to dive into it, and many other people have talked about it, some of his personnel groupings has you scratching your head just a little bit. I understand Roschon Johnson is injured right now, but even after Velus Jones fumbles on a kickoff, we're still giving him carries in the fourth quarter? Doesn't make a lot of sense. They had success, again, on that outside run zone scheme early in the game, abandoned it. Interior offensive line collapse, didn't even attempt to try and bring it in between the tackles and try and see if you can get something going there. After a couple times DeAndre Swift was met in the backfield, boom, down he goes. Shane Waldron, the offensive coordinator, bailed on it. The main one that kind of confused me, and I'm actually going to make this guy my X factor, my key player to a Chicago Bears win on the offensive side of the ball, is going to be Cole Kmet in this game. Couple reasons. First one, for those of you not aware and you're like, where is Cole Kmet? Cole Kmet only played 47% of the snaps on Sunday. Gerald Everett, new tight end, played more snaps, I believe 7 more than Cole Kmet. Cole Kmet's making $14 million a year. Cole Kmet had a career year with over 700 yards receiving last year. Cole Kmet is known as not just the best inline blocker on the Chicago Bears, but also a guy that can catch the ball on a seam route and a guy that showed really decent speed in the preseason just to get open. I'm confused why Shane Waldron simply didn't even feature him in the game. I think you're going to want to see a little bit more Cole Kmet on the field. I'm even fine with a 2 tight end set because as it's trending right now, Rome Odunze, the number 9 pick in the NFL draft, a guy who I think has an incredibly bright future, a guy that I think Chicago Bears fans are excited to watch and see, dealing with a grade 1 MCL right now. He's saying all the right things. I think the coaching staff and Matt Eberflus are saying all the right things just to kind of take the Texans off the scent of whether he's going to play or not. But in my personal opinion, I do not see Rome Odunze suiting up on Sunday. I don't understand the point of forcing it. If the MRI comes back with a slight sprain, even the slightest one, give him a week to recover. You don't need to stack on top of this if you're a young player like Rome Odunze. You want him for the long haul. Rome, even in interviews, said this week that he had never really dealt with an injury before in his whole life. So this has got to be new for him. So even if he does kind of go through all the training and everything, I mean, I just don't know if he's a guy that you can really rely on this Sunday. We also saw Keenan Allen nursing a little bit of a heel injury. He's had some veteran days off this week in terms of practice. I expect him to play. But as you saw late in the game on one of those routes, he did come up a little hobbling at moments. You wonder kind of where he's at. So this great, trio of wide receivers might not be at 100% in this Week 2 game against the Houston Texans, which is a problem. So I think Cole Kmet, you got to involve him in the passing game. Get him involved in some seam routes. Get him involved where he rubs and chips a defensive lineman like a Will Anderson, like a Danielle Hunter, and then gets out in the flat and can catch some balls and make things life a little bit easier for Caleb Williams. I think Gerald Everett can also do this too as well, but I just think Cole Kmet is a more well-rounded player than Gerald Everett. And I think he's the X factor there. And I'm going to say it. I think, probably contrary to what my final score pick is going to be, I think if Cole Kmet can give us 80-plus yards, I don't even know if he needs a touchdown, 80-plus yards receiving in this game, I think the Chicago Bears win the football game. I think he can be that big of a factor. He can be that big of a key. He can be that big of a solve, obviously, for some game planning that Houston's trying to do, which is probably stop DJ Moore, get after Caleb Williams, make his life a living hell, and see if they can continue to attack this interior offensive line. From the Caleb perspective, one of the keys for me, obviously, is 0 turnovers. And again, I'm going to go back to it. I did it last week, and I didn't like what I saw. I do think with a rookie quarterback, I don't care who you are, we're all human beings. We all have a bit of that emotional condition. When things don't go well, we do have to try and be resilient and overcome it. I think that first 15 script from Shane Waldron, man, it would really behoove the Chicago Bears and their rookie quarterback if Shane Waldron scripts up a really crisp, efficient first 15 plays. Let's get some points on the board early. Even if it's a field goal, even if it's a touchdown, let's get that feeling of moving the chains and making things happen. We just didn't see a lot of that in Week 1. And I think for a 4-quarter game on the road, national television, to get a rookie quarterback like Caleb some points early, especially scripted through that first 15, I think it just opens up the possibilities of some of the different challenges they may face throughout the game, and I think it makes it easier for him to overcome them if they can get something cooking a little bit early. If it's tough sledding again, and they're having a hard time moving the ball, that's going to be 4 quarters in a row from week 1, and then 5 quarters after the first quarter of week 2, 6 quarters. It starts to stack a little bit. And when you're gripping the bat too tight, right, or if you're holding on the football too hard, these things can kind of compound on themselves. So Shane Waldron, do all of us a favor and come up with a smart, crisp first 15 plays that the Bears can run to maximum production and see if we can get some points on the board there early. Give the confidence to the defense. A little shot across the bow to the Houston Texans, and most importantly, the rookie quarterback gets that feeling of, oh yeah, here we go. This is what it looks like. We made it down the field for the next 4 quarters. Every time he steps on the field, he'll feel like he's got an opportunity to do that instead of still trying to find that first thing somewhere in this game. The learning curve is going to be steep in this game. I will tell you that much. On the defensive side of the ball, look, as I had also said on previous shows, I do feel like that based on matchup, the Chicago Bears defensive line is going to be a bit of a Jekyll and Hyde at times. Last week versus the Titans was a great matchup for the Chicago Bears defensively and on the defensive line. And you saw them make some plays. You saw them get after the quarterback, hit him a couple of times, strip sack, and then, of course, the one play that led to the pick 6 interception. There are going to be times when the Chicago Bears defensive line plays really elite opposing offensive lines, and it ain't going to look great, and we're going to be like, hey, where is this unit? So for week 2, I do like Chicago Bears defensive line in general against the Texans offensive line. I don't think the Texans offensive line is an elite unit. It's not the worst in the world. It's probably more middle of the pack. So I think you can get production from there. And I think the easiest way to do this when you're on the road is I just want to see Matt Eberflus dial up the blitz a little bit sooner. I get it, Matt Eberflus, and this was an issue last year, and I was super critical of him for it, was that Matt Eberflus wants to rush 4 in his defense. Optimally, in a perfect world, that is what's going to get it done for him and his defense. But as we noticed in the second half of last year, when things really started going down the drain, Chicago Bears played better because he called more blitzes and he put more pressure on the opponent. He's got some guys with some speed that can get home or at least kind of throw the timing off of the opponent offensively. And I'm hoping with Matt Eberflus that he dials up a couple more blitzes early just to get that heat cooking. Get this defensive line a little more momentum. So maybe when he does just rush 4, they can get home. Don't put it all on their shoulders right off the bat. It's going to be difficult. They're going to have to stop the run, and C.J. Stroud, he is incredibly accurate and knows where to go with the football at any moment in time. So I'm hoping Matt Eberflus, he dials up the blitz a little bit more, can get home. I'm not saying cause turnovers, but I'm just saying cause enough unrest to try and keep them in some early down and distance situations that are advantageous for the Chicago Bears. 2nd and 9, 3rd and 8. 3rd and 7, even a 3rd and 10, things along those lines. My final key to the game before I give out our final score, we talked about the offensive line, talked about running the football, Caleb, Shane Waldron, my player of the game, X Factor, Cole Kmet, and obviously Eberflus calling some blitzes on defense. The final one is just play clean football as best to your ability. That means low on turnovers, actually 0 turnovers if you can help it. And also try and play clean, minimize the penalties, the back-breaking ones. I think they had penalties on almost every single special teams play I feel like that they had this week. Let's try and clean that up a little bit, right? Special teams is a little bit, at times, supposed to be seen and not heard in the penalty department. Let's try and keep that going. But you got to try and play clean football. I mean, that's going to be a huge key there, especially against a really good opponent. So, where do we land on this? My pick for the Chicago Bears versus the Houston Texans in week 2. Not going to sugarcoat it, folks. Not feeling great about this matchup, especially after week 1. This team has a lot to work on. You know, the Caleb situation, the rookie quarterback, I mean, he needs to stay in the oven a little bit longer. Needs to cook for just a little bit, right? Maybe a little bit rare on the temp. And at this time right now, I see the Houston Texans winning 27-17. I know it's not fun. It's not a fun prediction, but it's tough. There's going to be moments where this could be a really difficult matchup for the Chicago Bears. You're kind of hoping that there are some life lessons or something that we can take out of this game and look back on around Thanksgiving and go, "Oh man, I'm so grateful that that happened week 2." The timing of this just worries me, especially after the Bears played week 1, that I just don't know if they're ready to go on the road, offense and defense, because I think it's going to take them both to come out with a victory in this game. 27-17. Now, when I say that, that could easily mean that this can be a close game. A 20-14, maybe even a 20-17 in that third, fourth quarter. But there is something that I'm feeling, that there is going to be a touchdown probably late in the game that extends the lead a little bit. There could be a moment, too, as well, or as I talked about in the first segment, of Caleb Williams in a fourth quarter trying to bring his team back to victory, needs to make a throw, maybe makes a mistake. That would go against one of my keys, and that would lead to a Bears loss. So let's just hypothetically say, right, it's 20-14, 8 minutes to go. Caleb's got the ball. Let's see our number 1 pick drive us down the field. And maybe he makes a throw that 2 years from now he would never make, but he does now because he's a rookie and he's trying to win the game. And it get a little overzealous about it. And next thing you know, interception, Texans get the football back. They score a touchdown, game over, 27-17. I had it marked down as a loss. I'm not moving off of it now, especially after I saw week 1. Would it be great to see the defense come out and play fantastic? Would it be great to see the Bears offense lock into some of my keys that I've already mentioned? Cole Kmet has a great game. They run the football. Caleb makes 0 mistakes. And they put enough points on the board and play clean enough football that they can stay in this game and maybe win. That would be something. My tenor, maybe my enthusiasm, my momentum towards the Chicago Bears having a great season may change if they could pull out a victory like that in week 2. I just think it's a little too early for that. The great victories are going to happen, I think, this year for the Chicago Bears team. It's just this week 2 one, I just don't see it at this time. Side note, from a special teams perspective, love what I see from Torrey Taylor. And he's kicking indoors, which is super fun. Those are those little moments, right? And those are things that I think general managers like to harp on and talk about where, you know, if you are Ryan Poles, you talk about the well-rounded, all the phases of the game. Defense was the star last week. Special teams played well despite the Velus Jones fumble. And if Torrey Taylor can create great field position for the Chicago Bears defense, maybe that gives us a couple extra drives and a couple swings at the bat on an offense that might not be ready. It all plays itself into it. But I am hoping as Chicago Bears fans, we go into it with obviously optimism and hope, but we go into it with open eyes and understand at this point right now, whether you like it or not, this is part of the process right now. For a rookie quarterback, even a rookie quarterback that we hope turns into a franchise quarterback that competes for Super Bowls. Not everyone can be Cam Newton in his first game. And a lot of those guys that did have success, the Aaron Rodgers of the world, the Patrick Mahomes of the world, those dudes sat for a while. That's not how the NFL works anymore. Number 1 picks, they play right away, hell or high water, come what may, warts and all. And unfortunately for Caleb Williams, we saw some of those warts in week 1. And the good news is a lot of this stuff is super correctable. And he was able to do it without turning the ball over. And he was able to do it in a game where the Chicago Bears defense comes back and picks up a victory. Just think about this on the way out. Before I wrap up, Caleb Williams, his whole life, has probably been the reason or one of the main reasons all the teams that he's ever been on have won football games. Even go back to his days at Oklahoma before he transferred to USC. And what did we see last year with USC? Bad offensive line, even worse defense. Just atrocious defense from the Trojans. I can probably tell you it's been a while since Caleb Williams wasn't the top 5 reason he won a football game in a game that he's played in a long time. Not even in the top 5. And that alone hopefully has him have a bit of a reflection moment and a perspective that maybe week 1 he was trying to do it all. Maybe he was trying to throw 101 miles an hour on an 8-yard pass that clearly went inaccurate. Maybe he saw Keenan Allen open and he just chucked it down the field and didn't put that touch on it that he needed to do. Maybe he was trying to win the game with every single throw. Well, thankfully, we have a very talented defense that's been around and together now for several years. They have that chemistry. They have that rapport. They are ready to roll. And maybe for the first time in a very long time, Caleb Williams, just for now, maybe just for the next month, doesn't have to be the sole reason why the Chicago Bears win. The defense can maybe carry him for a little bit. And then hopefully maybe they switch sides. And then Caleb and the offense maybe pick up the defense on a bad day. But if you think about that, Caleb's probably never been in a game, it must be multiple years, where there was some other aspect other than himself was the reason why he won a game. I'm sure he's been a part of losses where he's played bad. I'm sure he's been a part of losses where he played great and the defense was bad. I don't think Caleb Williams has been in a game in a long time where he was bad and the team still won. That's got to be, we're looking for those little lessons from rookie quarterbacks to learn and take from week to week to week. That could be another one for Caleb too as well. Let's see how he responds. I do have the Chicago Bears losing in week 2, but man, if they pull it out and they win and Caleb looks good, it could be another stepping stone, getting us a little bit closer to that excitement that I think Chicago Bears fans want yesterday, want right now. But for now, we're just going to have to roll the ball out there and have fun. And I hope everyone listening, wherever you watch your Chicago Bears, whoever you're with, I hope you cheer full-throated, with passion, get mad, get upset, get excited, get elated, get cried, whatever you want to do. Just enjoy the game and have a great time. That's going to do it here for Sports Talk Chicago, right here on WLS AM 890. Thank you so much for tuning in. I am Joey Christopoulos. Thank you for listening to us every single Saturday. We're going to be talking a lot of Chicago Bears here in the coming weeks, but again, hang on, hang tight. I know the Chicago Cubs aren't dead. We'll see. I'm taking a little break from them. But then we got the Chicago Bulls entering training camp, Chicago Blackhawks. I do want to talk about other sports in the Chicagoland area. We'll get around to it. But right now, it is Bears season, so I appreciate you coming in and listening. Calling the radio station, jump on our YouTube page, keyword Sports Talk Chicago. Check out our page, like, comment, subscribe. Get in the comments there. Tell me what your final score is. Am I wrong? And if I am wrong, tell me next week that I'm wrong, because I hate picking the Bears to lose. I'm just trying to call it like I see it and be as honest as I possibly can. You can follow me on socials if you'd like to, at Joey Sports Guy. And again, if you want to check out Sports Talk Chicago on YouTube, feel free to do it. Otherwise, come on back here next Saturday, right here on WLS AM 890, and listen in to Sports Talk Chicago with Joey Christopoulos. Thank you so much for tuning in. I am out, and enjoy your Saturday.